It takes less than 30 seconds to set up a video encounter on MediV's web-based telehealth and video conferencing application. In this demo, I'll walk you through the setup of your first video encounter so you can see just how easy it is to get started. Ready? Let's go. You access the MediV platform by going to medivism.com and clicking on the login link on the top right section of the navigation page. This will take you to the Equipo platform that powers the MediV application, where you can enter your login credentials and click Login. Once you've logged into the application, you will see the dashboard for your practice. For right now, we can skip this section and move right into the patient dashboard, where we see information about current patient appointments that we have in the middle, tomorrow's appointments on the right, and then any previous appointments we've had would be on the left of the dashboard. To create a new appointment, we can either search for existing patients that are in the platform by entering their last name and or first name in the top search window over to the top left, and then clicking enter. Or we can add a new patient by clicking the plus patient button and entering the patient information. There are 3 basic bits of information that we need for a new patient before we can get started. We need their first name and their last name and their date of birth. So we can enter a first name, Joe, last name, Morris, and the date of birth we can select from the scheduler icon and then update with the appropriate month, day, and year. Once we've entered those bits of information, we hit save and continue, and this will create that patient inside of the MediV platform. So we have this general patient profile page, and to set up a video conference appointment with this patient, we have 2 options. We can do a Meet Now encounter with the patient by clicking the blue video icon near to the patient's name, or we can do a Meet Later or scheduled appointment by exposing the elements of the red hamburger menu and then clicking on the 3rd icon, the Schedule the e-consult icon on this red menu to schedule an appointment for a later date. So let's go ahead and do a schedule for an appointment at a later date. So we click on this red video icon and we enter the practice information. Then we enter the date and time for this new appointment. So that will be tomorrow at 11:05 a.m. And we can assign it to a doctor in the practice. So we can say Dr. Jim Tate, and we can select the duration for the encounter. That doesn't mean that the encounter couldn't run longer, but for the most part, we give ourselves a window of time that we think is feasible for the encounter. So we say 30 minutes, and then we click schedule. This will then expose a screen that will request some patient contact information. And this contact information will be used to send the appropriate appointment information, as well as the link that would enable the patient to participate in the video encounter to the patient. So we request either the patient's email or their smartphone number. So in this case, we will enter the smartphone number for the patient and an email address, but we don't have to enter the email address. When I hit submit, this will send immediately a text message to the patient on that phone number with the specifics of the appointment, as well as the link that they will need to use to access the appointment at the appropriate time. So that sets up the patient appointment for tomorrow. And if we wanted to take a look at where that appointment was set up, we can go back to the patient navigation section on the left side of the application. And we will see that we have an appointment scheduled for tomorrow for Mr. Joe Morris with Dr. Jim Tate. Now, if we wanted to meet with Mr. Morris right at this very instant, we can simply click on his name here. This will take us back to the patient overview page, and then we can schedule an on-demand or meet now consultation with Mr. Morris to have an encounter with him right now. So to do that, we see this blue video icon to the left of Mr. Morris's name. We click on this icon. We validate the practice and provider information here. The date and time for the appointment is today at right now, this time. And we select Start Consult. And this will expose again contact information for Mr. Morris. His email address and phone number can be entered or validated if it's already in the system. And when we hit submit, it will do two things. It will send a text message and or an email to Mr. Morris with the specifics and the link for the appointment right now. And it will also begin the encounter on the provider side, where we see this screen that shows us that the appointment has commenced and we're just waiting for Mr. Morris to get the link, to click on the link and enter into the appointment. While we're waiting for Mr. Morris to come into the appointment, a few things I would like to highlight. The first is this top row in red, where it shows you Mr. Morris's name, his date of birth, the provider with whom he'll be meeting, and the appointment start date and time, and the duration of the appointment so far. So this running clock shows how long the appointment is running for. The other aspect of the provider view is this big blue window, which when Mr. Morris enters into the appointment, his image will appear in this big blue box. And my image as the provider is shown in this little box on the bottom right corner of the main image window. Some other features that I want to bring to your attention are the screen capture feature. So if we were in an encounter, Mr. Morris and I, and there was some swelling or bruising or anything that he wanted to show me that I felt I wanted to get to get an image of, I can take a screen grab of that image so that Mr. Morris will not have to take a picture himself and send it to me. I can take a picture right from my screen of what he's showing me during the encounter. The other section is this section here, where as a provider, I can implement some encounter notes. So I can put the chief complaint, swelling, and any other observations and soap notes that I would like to document during this encounter. I will place them inside of this section here. Or alternatively, if I had my own EHR and I wanted to document those things within my EHR, I can just minimize this screen and open up another window where I can expose the EHR screens and document within the EHR. But the critical feature here is this session tracking and audit logging for billing purposes should that time come, and then the opportunity to do screen capture of what's being shown on the screen during the encounter. Also, if I wanted to document some encounter notes, I have the ability to do that within this application right here, right now. So to end the session, I would just click Close Session below the Session Encounter Notes section, and this will stop the timer. So it's no longer running the timer. It ends the encounter for me and Mr. Morris, and it also turns Mr. Morris's phone off, so he's no longer involved in the encounter. To complete the encounter fully on the provider side, I then do any further documentation that I see necessary. I can do a charge capture, or I can just go ahead and complete the consultation by clicking Complete Consult. And once I've done that, I have the option to download the report that will show the encounter notes that I took, or I can just go straight back to my patient list and try to download those encounter notes at a later date. So that ends for now the initial demo on how to conduct and set up a video encounter. We look forward to talking to you again and having you visit with us for further